Hello everyone, my name is Kara. I am an 18-year-old high school student from Germany, and this is the first episode of my knitting podcast of Skeins and Scholars. This is a podcast mainly about knitting and the crafting I do, but also a little bit about things I learn about, find interesting, or just engage with in my free time, mostly about like some music I listen to and mostly make, or different things I learn about in school or university later. So yeah, my name is Kara. I live in the north of Germany, so the next city to me is Hamburg. We drive about like 1 hour to 1.5 hours by train to get there. And I'm 18 years old. I am currently finishing up high school, so I am actually in the exam phase. So I don't really have to go to school anymore. I just have a few exams every now and again. The next one is in 3 weeks, I think. It is my math exam. And I am aiming for a grade average of 1.0 at the end of my high school time, which is the best grade average you can achieve in Germany. We have grades from 1 to 6, where 1 is the best and 6 is the worst. And yeah, I have really high goals for myself. But I want to study music, biology and math and become a teacher. I actually wanted to start with music and math and see whether I could finish them both and also biology at the same time. But actually I did the exam for music to get into the university, and I passed with a okay grade. I don't know my grade like exactly because I didn't have the time to go to Hamburg again to find it out, but I know that I passed with like a pretty good grade. But they only have like 14 spots for this course of study because they have to like put a lot of effort into every music student, because we have like one-on-one lessons with the teachers for the different instruments we learn. So I didn't get in yet this year. Maybe I will get in via the waiting list because I'm only on like this 8th place, I think. So there is a chance. Otherwise I will try again next year, now that I know what is coming and can maybe practice a bit better. Yeah, so that's what I want to do later. But right now I have a lot of free time for knitting, which is nice, and also to learn for my exams. I'm a bit nervous, as you can see, which is why I talk even faster than I already do. And I am looking at myself in my phone camera, where I feel like I look awful and also like kind of really funny because I'm wearing a banana shirt, which is not uncommon for me. I like wearing weird shirts. And yeah, my Instagram is Kara Applepie if you want to follow me there, and my Ravelry name is Kara Ellen. Yeah. About knitting, like I have a lot of knitting to show this week because it's the first episode, and this is kind of knitting that has accumulated over the last couple of weeks or month, because like I stopped knitting for a really long time in the winter because I wasn't feeling so good, and then I met my boyfriend, which was kind of, I spent a lot of time with him and not really knitting. But I missed it, and I went back to it this spring, and now I'm like knitting more than ever, I feel like. It was the first time I stopped knitting in 3 years, ever since I really started to knit. It was a really weird time this last winter, but I'm glad that I'm knitting again now. Yeah, and I actually have 2 finished objects to show. Like, one is a real finished object that I put a lot of work into in the last couple of weeks, and one is just something that I recently blocked because I didn't manage to. But like, my real finished object is actually on the chair next to me and blends in really nicely with the grey. And this is a sweater. This is called, first let me show you. It's a grey sweater. I don't know if you can even see it. Like, it's really big. It's a little bit wrinkled because it was lying on the bed like this whole day. And it has a turtleneck and long sleeves, very long sleeves, and a very long body with like contrasting colors at the end of the sleeves with the grey, and like the end of the body and the turtleneck. And this is the pattern The Lion Sleeps Tonight by Regina Moessmer. I made the size medium for my boyfriend, who is really tall. He's 192 centimeters. Yeah, 192 meters, 192 centimeters, which is, I don't know what it is in foot, but it must be 6.5 feet. Yeah, 6.5, I think, like 6 feet 5 inches. approximately. Could be like an inch off or so, but he's pretty tall, we can say that. So I said I wanted to knit him a sweater when I picked up my knitting mojo again, because I was really into sweater knitting and I wanted to give something to him, something handmade and really nice, because I tend to only give handmade gifts. They are more personal to me, so I give him a lot of like notes and an advent calendar with many notes and sweets and stuff, but everything is like handwritten and handmade. And now I wanted to give him something big, so I decided to make him a sweater. And then he's like, oh, my neck is always cold, so I need something with a turtleneck. So I was like, okay, yeah, more knitting. And I want like really long sleeves, not anything shorter than this. And it must also fit his body. Like, he's slim, so that's why it is size medium, but I had to make it a lot longer in like the sleeves and the body to like not have it be a crop top. So this ate so much knitting time, and it's a reverse stockinette sweater, which is knit like inside out with the stockinette side, because I would not have knit this if I had to like do it in reverse stockinette and purl all the way. I don't hate purling as much as like many other podcasters I know, like I know Skeins, Ellie, she hates purling. I don't hate it as much, but it's still like slower. I am a continental knitter, so I think I knit pretty fast actually, and I have like a weird method of purling where I don't have to do like things normally with continental knitting, like you have to wrap the yarn around still with purling with your other hand, but I have found like a different method, I don't know what it's called, where that isn't the case, but the stitches are then like twisted a bit, so you like normally would have them with I don't know how to explain this. I think I can show you actually on one of my projects. Just yeah, so this is the sock I'm knitting, and like this is actually the heel flap. I will talk about this later, but with the stitches you can see like they are opening like the normal way. So I don't know if you can actually see it. But yeah, they're like normal stitches. But if I purl them, they are the other way around. So I can just like knit them normally. I just have to like put my needle in another place. But it makes it really a lot faster for me. That's why I do that. But still, I would have not knitted the sweater if I had to purl everything. Just because like maybe a sweater for me, I could do that if it was like a cropped sweater with 3/4 sleeves. But for my boyfriend, no. Not possible. I like the stockinette here. But I think it's a really nice sweater. It's like really big and cozy. It's made from Drops Extra Fine. Not because I love Drops as a yarn company, but because I'm a student and I'm a knitter on a budget. So like I don't like how Drops sometimes copy like popular patterns on Ravelry, which is why I never use their patterns. I only like if I see something very similar with Drops that another designer has made before, I always try to support like the original designer, so I don't work from Drops patterns. But just the price point of the yarn for me is very accessible. It's only like 2, 3, 4 euros a skein, and that's something I can pay, whilst like hand-dyed yarns with 20 euros or so for a 100 gram skein, like I know there's a lot of hard work going into it. I dye yarn too, not as a professional hand dyer, just for fun, and I know how long it takes and how much work goes into it, and then the drying and the skeining and all. But it's just something I cannot indulge in usually. So yeah, this is made with Drops Extra Fine, which is actually a really soft yarn in my opinion. It's merino and just soft and nice. And my boyfriend is like, this is like okay, but it couldn't be any scratchier. And I'm like, this is not scratchy. What am I supposed to make for you? Like cashmere? But yeah, as long as he's fine with this, like it's still an accessible yarn. I don't think I could get him cashmere in a quantity to make a sweater for him, because this is about 700 grams of yarn, which like in Drops Extra Fine it's okay, but in like more expensive yarns this would have been difficult to make for him. But yeah, I really love this pattern. It has really nice details with like the, I think it's not a raglan, it's like either the contiguous method or something similar. And so you have this kind of curved or zigzag line here with the increases happening at different places and different speeds, which fits them like really well. And it also has short rows, which you can see here on the pearl side a bit, which we don't really mind. You can almost not see it if he wears it. And it's a really well-fitting sweater. It grew a bit like in the wash, a bit more than I thought, because I don't block. I don't like blocking. Blocking? No, swatching. I don't like swatching. Blocking is fine. Swatching is something I do sometimes when it's something that has to fit a certain way, or I'm like not sure about the size, or if it's like something with a lot of lace in a sweater which I want to fit. But usually, like if it's stockinette and I know that I have a pretty standard gauge when knitting, like I know that's something I cannot trust in because designers also have different gauges. But I really like with something like the sweater, it has a bit of ease. And so if it's like 8 centimeters instead of 10, it would have also been fine, or if it had been 12. But so I didn't really know how much it would grow lengthwise. It didn't grow a lot widthwise, like not more than I expected. But now the sleeves are like quite long for him. Like they go up to here, which is fine for the winter where you need to be really warm, so he doesn't mind. And also like the sweater is nice and long. But for next time, like if I knit the sweater again, which I think I might do, then I need to maybe do a few rounds less, which I wouldn't mind. It's less knitting. And knitting the body of the sweater, which is what I've been doing like this last couple of days, took forever. I did the sleeves first after having like 5 centimeters or so of the body done, and they just like grew really quickly because you were decreasing. I did sleeves and they're not a large circumference. But the body, it took forever, and I had to turn like the whole sweater with the sleeves, the turtleneck, and it's a large thing, and it was so getting on my nerves, which is why I only like did 1 or 2 hours every day on it. But I did finish it now, and I'm really glad I have, because now it's getting hot outside and he doesn't need it. But yeah, he has it, and maybe if we get like a few days of cold again, he can wear it, or it will like be in the cupboard again until next winter. I need to talk slower. I'm so nervous. Sorry. Yeah, but that is my first finished object. I think once the weather is not really as hot and he can actually put it on without dying of the heat, I will get some really nice photos of him and the sweater, and then I will put them on my Instagram probably, and on Ravelry, so you can look there. I don't have my projects like updated really well with nice photos as of now, but it's something I'm working on. So I'm actually like taking different photos like one at a time, and when I have them all kind of accumulated, I want to take like a half day or so and really do all this really well, and my projects on Ravelry being organized and a lot of stuff being in there, because I think it's the way I present myself on Ravelry, especially when I offer to test knit for designers, and if it's looking like I didn't knit a lot or it's not really professional photos, I think I won't get picked as much. So yeah, that's something I'm planning on doing. So if you want to see like this sweater on a person, just wait a bit and like check my Instagram or Ravelry and you will see it. But yeah, finished object. Yes, I'm so glad it's done. If I knit him another sweater like this, it will be in autumn, I think, not earlier. I can't knit on this in the summer, it's so warm. And then the project that I only blocked this week is a project I knit when I went to Prague with my like grade level. Half of my grade went to Prague, and we drove by bus, so it was 12 hours or so each way, and then I also knit a little bit in Prague. But this is just garter stitch. It's the Vertices Unite shawl by Stephen West. Let's see if I can get it at least halfway into the frame. Yeah, I think that worked quite well. You can see long ends, another long end. Yeah, and I knit on this during the entire trip and also in the week afterwards, and then I had it finished. And yeah, this is a really nice shawl. I used different like yarns hand dyed by me over like different periods of time, and I don't think they're like perfect together. I think like this one kind of sticks out a bit because it's so pastel and the next one is so like deep colored. And then there's a few pieces where I'm like, this is too similar, like this one is a lot like this one. But overall I'm fine with it. I don't tend to wear a lot of shawls. So I don't know actually when I will wear it or if I will like at some point give it away or so. But this thing is, a lot of work went into this and a lot of like yarns that I dyed. And I don't know if I want to give it as a gift because I don't have someone like so knit-worthy. Like with the sweater for my boyfriend, it's fine because I know he's really happy about it. And like I asked him before whether he wanted the sweater and which colors he wanted and which yarn he wanted. And we tried everything, and so I knew it would be perfect and he would be really glad. So I like knitting for him. I'm not a super selfish knitter. But like with this one that is already knitted and kind of in my colors, I like purple and turquoise together. I don't know if I want to give it away, but I also don't really wear it. I will see if I wear it more in the winter. But like the thing is, I didn't block it for 6 months almost after finishing it, so I don't think it is super my style. So I don't know, maybe I will kind of put it up for a swap at some point against some yarn which I can then use again. But I'll see how I do this, and or if I keep it as like, look what I made from like hand-dyed yarn by me thing. But yeah, I just blocked this, and I don't have fancy blocking mats. This was just like on, not the washing line, but like the kind of washing like rack to dry stuff on. I don't know what it is called in English because English is not my first language. But I just laid it flat on there at the same time as the sweater, which kind of was not a good idea because they were kind of overlapping and stuff. But it's so warm outside, it's like summer hot during the days, that they dried in like 2 hours or less. They were really just like, oh, sun, and getting really dry really fast. So that was really good for blocking things. So this is not a super blocked shawl, but because it's garter stitch, it doesn't really need to be, I think. It has the right shape and all. Like this side kind of is a bit wrinkly, but I don't think you will see it if I wear it, so I don't mind. But yeah, finished object number 2 from my hand-dyed yarn. And the pattern is Vertices Unite by Stephen West. I think most people have knitted or seen it at least. Yeah, so like heading on to my whips, I have a few sweater works in progress, which I don't tend to do like really often, that I have multiple sweaters on the needles at once, because I tend to then like not work on one. But these are different in many ways, because this first sweater which I want to show you is Pavement by Vera Välimäki. I think that's how you pronounce the name. I've been to Estonia as an exchange student, and Estonian and Finnish are really similar, so I think like in Estonian I would have said Vera Välimäki. I think that's how to pronounce it, but no one else does on the internet, so I'm not sure. Everyone pronounces it differently. But yeah, I have the body of the sweater, and I have a sleeve, which I've knit over like the last couple of weeks. When we went to a concert, my boyfriend, my sister and me, in Berlin, and had to drive there, I knit this sleeve basically. It was this short. I knit all the rest on the drive. And now I have cast on for the second sleeve, and this is happening slowly. I did all of this yesterday morning, cast on for it and like knit this far, so it wouldn't take long if I just sat down and knit it. But I think that's something I will do like next week when I'm on holiday with my godfather and godaunt. I don't know how to call it. Like the people, the church during your baptism gives you as like safekeepers when your parents die or something. I don't know church things at all. I'm actually atheist, but I was baptized because that's something everyone did at that time, like in my school who wasn't already, and my father really wanted me to go to like the lessons and stuff, and I needed to get baptized. And at age 10 I didn't really know how to say like I don't believe in it. I don't mind people who believe in God or something, I just don't like it when they use it for bad things, like hating people with other religions, or like excusing being against abortions or against birth control completely, so I don't like that kind of thing. But I don't mind religion as a concept, really, like everyone can believe what they want to believe. And I'm really not talking about the sweater right now, I'm noticing. How did I get to this topic? I'm not sure. Yeah, but I'm going on holiday next week. Sorry, this is all over the place. Even though I have notes. I have written down what I want to talk about. There's 2 pages of notes in this little notebook. So I don't know how I'm getting so off topic all the time. But yeah, this sweater. It's a really nice sweater. I knit Pavement like 1 time before, and it was too short kind of because I didn't like account for having a single ply yarn, which I tend to have a shorter row gauge with that. I don't really like single plies that much, only for shawls, which I don't tend to wear, so I really don't like them as much. But it was kind of short, and it was one of the first sweaters I knit, so I don't think I picked the right colors for making a sweater. It had kind of like long color changes, and that looked weird on the sleeves, where there was like this much of one color and this much of the other color, and in the body it was just like these stripes. So I learned from my mistakes, and I really like the sweater, so I cast on again, using again Drops yarn because it's accessible to me. Drops Knot, which is alpaca and wool, and it's really like nice and fuzzy, and I really like this petrol color. And I like knit the body last summer, I think, summer or autumn, when I still had Knitting Mojo, and then I kind of dwindled away. It was one of the last projects I actually knit on. So I had like only this kind of garter edging to go, like not even all of it, maybe 2/3 of it, and the sleeves. So that's what I'm knitting now, as I picked up some old works in progress again. Yeah, so this is one of them. And I really like the yarn actually for the sweater, because the sweater is super loose and drapey, and knit on 4.5mm needles with actually fingering weight yarn. Also this yarn I'm using is sport weight because I didn't like how see-through my last Pavement sweater was. But yeah, I really like it. It's a really nice sweater, and I made the sleeves a bit longer and kind of changed the decrease rate because it's something I tend to do. But it fits me really well, and I just now have to do the same thing again, and I'll be finished. Yeah, and also I changed the bottom hemline because I did the front as was like specified in the pattern, I think. And for the back I just continued the short rows, sometimes more, so it's like a high-low hem with the back being longer than the front. Yeah, so that's one work in progress that I will probably finish next week if I can like actually do it. Then the next one is Marettimo by Caitlin Hunter. I really love Caitlin Hunter as a designer. I also love the like wearing your knitting challenge that she and Andrea Mowry started a week ago or so. So the Today's Knit Outfit Challenge. I want to do that at some point, but I don't have someone to photograph me on a daily basis. Like, my boyfriend has to go to work actually quite early, so I don't think I can ask him when it's dark outside to like photograph me in my knit outfit, which I usually still wear pajamas when I like eat breakfast with him because I have so much more time at the moment. But yeah, Caitlin Hunter is great. And I cast on this Marettimo tee, which looks really funny right now as a work in progress, but I love the finished like top. Please look it up on Ravelry. I don't have a photo here, but it's really beautiful as a finished project. It has this like beautiful wavy lace, which has a special name, and I've knitted like 2 times already for different shawls for other people. Yeah, but I'm using these really cheery yarns, which I actually have next to me, like the full ball and the yarn I'm not using right now. So this is a Martin's Lab colorway. Martin's Lab is really fun. It's like one of those hand-dyed yarns that I usually can't afford, and he's from the UK, I think. But I got this on a D-stash together with the other colors that I'm using. And this color is, it's this Bouncy merino base, which is like 100% superwash merino. It has 365 meters or 399 yards per 100 gram. And it's the colorway Hey Joe. So I have one skein of that. You can't really see it because it's not focusing on it. Great. yeah, but that's my one yarn, which I use for the lace. I don't have a second contrasting color because I like this color so much that I just used it for both contrasting colors, which I think has worked really well. And then this really bright, like cheery yellow is a Knitcrate yarn, which I don't have a Knitcrate. I can't afford it, sadly. Maybe at some point I will, but also I like knowing my yarn before I get it because I'm not really particular. I like a lot of yarn, but I don't think I could knit like with 2 skeins of bright yellow yarn all the time unless I have a fitting contrast. So yeah, this is Vidalana by Knitcrate. Sorry. Vidalana by Knitcrate. And the colorway Bananas, which it does match my banana. Great. I can knit this tee and wear it over the shirt. I don't think that would look good, but it could work. And it is also a merino sock yarn. It has 75% superwash merino and 15% nylon and actually 10% cashmere. I didn't notice that, but it is softer than the other. I just thought it was like a softer merino, like with lower micron number. But yeah, apparently it's 10% cashmere too. Its fingering weight has 400 meters or 437 yards per 100 grams. Maybe this time it will focus. Nope, I can't get my phone to focus this right now. All these yarns are exclusively hand-dyed for Knitcrate, it says. And I sometimes browse through Ravelry de-stash pages when someone like updates, or like I usually put in like European Union because then shipping is a lot cheaper and I don't have to pay customs. And like the weight of yarn I wanted and the quantity. And this person had like this yellow yarn, and I love yellow at the moment. And also this other skein which has some yellow in it. And I thought it was only like yellow, orange and white because I only looked like at the first photo, it was kind of a square photo and the skein was longer than the photo was. So in the middle there was a lot of orange and yellow and white, and I was like, okay, great, contrasting color. And then I got the skein in the mail and I was like, ooh, there's a lot of like purple and green and other colors, which is fun, I don't mind. So I think this will be a really cheery like spring and summer top. It's really loose and like almost see-through, but not as much as my first Pavement was, so I don't mind it. And I just saw this pattern when I looked through Caitlin Hunter's patterns on Ravelry during her like anniversary sale. So I tend to only buy patterns by indie designers whenever they have a sale. Not because I don't want to pay the full price, but because I usually don't have the money to spare. So like when I see, oh, they have a 30% sale, like which patterns have I had in my wish list or in my queue for a long time? And I checked out like 3 of her patterns that I really liked and had like in my wish list for a long time. And then I saw this tee and I was like, oh, I need that too. So yeah, that's why it came home, and I immediately cast on this yarn when I got this in the mail too. So I'm not really actively knitting on it as of right now. It's like the last time I knit on it is maybe a week ago, but I know that it will also be great for going on holiday because at the moment it's just stockinette and round. So yeah, I'm glad to have it as a project for when I talk to people or something. But yeah, I'm not really knitting on it when I can knit on more complicated things. So speaking of more complicated things, this is pretty much the opposite actually. This shawl, it's a shawl, it's not for me. It's called Lyrica Euterpe, the pattern, and I'm in the middle of the row because the rows are so long, and it has this like complicated lace on the edging. It looks really open with the light shining in from behind, but actually usually it doesn't look as bad. It has really complicated lace as an edging, and the beginning is stockinette, and this will grow a lot. I know because I already knit a shawl from this yarn for the same person actually. Her name is Lisa, and I think she's also from Germany, and yeah, I knit a Multnummer shawl for her a few months ago in exchange for a skein of socks that rock. I have it actually behind me caked up because I don't have like the cake maker for myself. I use my mother's, so I don't have to buy one. Yeah, so I got it in exchange for this Skeins and Multnummer that I knit. And a few weeks ago she messaged me on Ravelry and was like, hey, would you like to knit something for me again, like some shawls? And she had like 2 she wanted to knit, Lyrica Euterpe and a modified version of a Haruni lace shawl. And I was like, yeah, sure, because she has a lot of Wollmeise in like pure and twin and all. And this time, like, she showed me all her Wollmeise skeins, and I asked her if I could have a sweater's quantity, so that would be 3 skeins of twin, because I want to make a like real big sweater. So she was like, yeah, sure, because last time I got a 100 gram skein for a project that used 150 grams. So I kind of knit more than I received, and this time I received more than I'm knitting. And yeah, so I have 3 skeins of this beautiful Wollmeise colorway. It's like gray but with a like lavender purple hue, and I love it. I don't have any like beautiful gray yarns because I tend to buy colors a lot, but I know I will wear this a lot as a sweater. It's called Mausjung, which means young mouse, and it's on the Pure base, which is 100% Merino superwash, and it has 350 meters per 100 grams, but this is a 150 gram skein. They look tiny, these skeins, because they're so tightly wound. Like, I could hit someone with it and it actually hurts. It's really tightly wound. And then I see like the caked up or balled up version of it, which she sent me this already caked up in like this hand wound skein. And it's really like soft and squishy, and it's just merino, but it feels really different in the cakes than it does in the skein, because the skeins are so weirdly wound. Yeah, but I'm knitting on this for her. I hated the stockinette portion because it didn't really like glide over these needles. I don't know. I am using Knit Pro Symphony wood needles because I really like these symphony needles. I also had a different one, like a prim wooden needle, but it just, I don't know, the yarn didn't really glide very well in stockinette knit on the flat over these needles. Like stockinette on the round, it's fine, but not on the flat apparently. But yeah, now I'm on the lace and I don't care because it doesn't glide very easily anyways. It's complicated lace. And I want to talk about like knitting fears, because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't knit a lace shawl, or I can't knit colorwork, or I can't do something. And I'm very self-confident in my skills, not in my looks. I'm very not confident in my looks at all, but in my skills I am confident. So I'm like, I can knit this. I was like, the 4th, 5th sweater I made was, I'm not sure what it's called. It's by a Japanese designer who has like only $2 patterns because she can't do pattern support. And it was a all-over lace cardigan, like a really popular one, I know. And I had never knit lace before, like at all. I did like yarn overs before maybe, but not lace in like a complicated way. And I knit this all-over lace cardigan in a construction method I didn't know, with a 3-needle bind-off, which I had never done before. And it worked. I was fine with it. It's sadly too big now because I lost a lot of weight during the last couple of years, but I just did it. The same with colorwork. I just decided I wanted to knit a hat for a friend of mine with like a piano keyboard and knit into it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do colorwork for that. And I just did it. And the same here, like I didn't even look at the pattern really before offering to knit it. Like I looked, what is it? It's a shawl with lace. I did it before for her, so I was like, fine. And then I saw the chart and I was like, what's that? Because it has like 2 parallel bars over 3 stitches. I'm like, what's that? Is this supposed to be a cable? No, you're wrapping your yarn around like stitches that have already been knit. Like it's here or something. It's why it pulls together so much at like different places, also here. And it feels really fun, and it takes a long time to knit one stitch because you have to like then pull on the other yarn and stuff, but it's fine. I learned how to do it and now I'm doing it. I don't care. So yeah, that's how I kind of view knitting challenges. I just do it because it works. It always works, or I have to rip back and do it again. I don't mind. So yeah, that's another work in progress that I have. Lyrica Euterpe from Wollmeise Pure in a colorway I don't know, because I think she sent me the tag, but it was like loose in the package and I put it somewhere and now I don't know where it is. But she also sent me like another skein to knit for her because, as I said, she wanted like 2 shawls knit in exchange for the 3 skeins of Marettimo, which is understandable. 3 skeins of Wollmeise, that's like €6. And I know my time is kind of worth more than that because I'm knitting on the shawl for like at least 20 hours or so. But knitting for me is not really work. Like, I love knitting lace and I love knitting shawls every now and again. And I don't like wearing them, so I would like to swap for like something I could wear, like someone who knits like 3 pairs of socks for me and I do a giant shawl for them or something like that. But yeah, for now I'm swapping against yarn, which is even better because I can't afford this expensive yarn. And now I get it in exchange for doing something I love. So it's great. And I also have this skein, which I'm gonna knit up for her, which I love this color. If she had had like 3 skeins of this, I would have picked it, but she didn't. And it's the colorway We're Different. So it's again, this is a twin base actually, not the pure base, which is 80% merino superwash and 20% polyamide. And it has 311 meters on 100 grams, so pretty similar. So it kind of, like the meterage is more of a sport weight, but it's classified as fingering because it is a fingering, like knitting it up. It's a plump fingering, but not a sport in my opinion. So yeah, I'm gonna knit this into this modified Haruni. I haven't caked it up yet because I hate caking yarn. And I caked up like all the skeins I received over the last couple of weeks actually at the same time. But with this I was just like, oh yeah, I can knit the caked up version first, like the Lyrica Euterpe. And then I can like get on like winding this one. I hate winding yarn. It's not nice. There's like a service somewhere, but there isn't usually on these stashes. But if I would buy yarn new, like by Indie Dyers, they had a service where like for a pound or euro or whatever, so I would like wind the yarn for me. I would always pick it because I don't have a lot of money, but I hate winding yarn. I would pay someone to do it. So yeah, but this was Lyrica Euterpe and also like future knitting with the Haruni. And my last like big work in progress is the Nordiska sweater, also by Caitlin Hunter. And this sweater is a weird one because it was what brought my knitting mojo back. Like I went to a yarn store and bought beautiful yarn, and shortly afterwards, like Caitlin Hunter brought out like the Iskalt sweater, which uses the construction also used in the Nordiska. And I was like, oh, I want to make both of them. And I started with Nordiska because it's a lot less knitting and it's color work, and I love doing color work. And so I knit like the V-neck raglan portion with these fun cables you do at the raglan seams. And then I did the body, which is flipping up right now, but it's not blocked yet, so it's fine. And I have also almost done the first sleeve. I just need to finish the ribbing. But yeah, I need to kind of do something in between magic looping and actually knitting on a circular needle. And I think I will switch it to double pointed needles, but I'm not in the mood right now. So this will get finished, the sleeve. And then I have to do the other. But I don't like doing color work on double pointed needles. And for one of the needle sizes here, I don't have a short circular. So I hated knitting it because I had to use double pointed needles for color work, which I don't like. So I don't know, I think I will wait until at some point like I can get new needles. Probably sometime after Easter, because I hope for Easter presents. But yeah, if I get like a 4.5 millimeter round circular, the second one will fly. But until then, no, not for me. So that's why it's not finished. I love knitting it, but not the sleeve, so at some point it will get finished. But I'm not beating myself up over it. I'm like, once I get the needle, I have to do it, but before I get the needle, no. And the yarn is actually Langyarn's Donegal tweed, which is really similar to Debbie Bliss Donegal tweed, I think it's called. There's just a lot of similar yarns like this. It's just pure merino Donegal. I don't know if it's the same breed or something, but it says it's 100% merino. It's also a single ply, but it's like also has tweed and stuff, and it doesn't feel like a usual single ply, so I don't mind knitting with this. And I've bought like a big amount of this yarn in a yard sale that my local yarn store here has. They do it once a year in November, and they have so much yarn for like €2 or €2.50. And this one was like €2 for 50 grams, which was really good, I think, for 100% merino in, like, it was a 50 gram skein. And then the next one, like, this was already way over a year ago, like 1.5 years ago. And the last one they did, I actually bought a lot of this Atelier Citron hand-dyed yarn, unisono based. In this purple I have 2 skeins, I didn't have more, and I also have 3 skeins of nice burgundy. So that was hand-dyed yarn that originally sells for like 10-12 euros or something, and I got it for 2.50 for a skein of 100 grams, so that was great. And it's merino, it's a sport weight, it's amazing. But yeah, also this yarn for the Nordiska was in a similar yard sale there. And my last project, or it's a lot of projects, but one of them is an active whip, and the other are like semi-active whips. Because if you know Amy Florence and her podcast, the Stranded podcast, it's my favorite knitting podcast to watch, I think. And she just started a knit-along called the Roller Derby, because she's knitting Roll City rollers and she wants to make a knit-along for that. And I love knitting Roll City rollers. It's like my favorite sock to knit, because you don't have to do like the entire leg and another like big amount of knitting for the foot, but just like a bit of stockinette, and then you do a heel, and then you have a foot. Like first you have gusset decreases, and then you have a bit of foot, and then the toe, and you're done with a sock. And so I cast on from some yarn, which is also hand-dyed, but I got it on eBay, like 5 skeins, but one was a 200 gram skein. So 600 grams of merino superwash with some nylon mixed in on a sport to DK weight for €6 for the 600 grams, which was really cheap because she was discontinuing the space. She's a hand dyer. And I bought this as well as like some sock yarn for €5 per 100 gram skein, because I thought this was also like a really good deal. But yeah, so I knit one roasted roller yesterday afternoon, like from 4:30 to 9 in the evening, and I finished it. And now I cast on the second one today. I've not really knit on it super much because I spent the day with my parents and my cat and my siblings, and I didn't have so much time to knit because I was also practicing the piano and teaching my cat to walk on a leash. So it's not finished yet, but I think I'll get a lot of progress done on it like this evening. And yeah, I really love the Roll City rollers. I used 3mm needles for this really DK sport weight yarn, which worked really well. They're really dense socks, and I just knit the small size instead of the medium that I usually do. But it worked great, and I really want more short socks for the summer to wear, summer, autumn, spring, and I even wear them in winter over like store-bought socks. So yeah, this is great that she has a knit along for it, so I'm knitting all the Roll City rollers. And this is a pattern by Mara Catherine Briner, a free pattern that most people know, I think. And I also, like just before that, before knowing about the knit along, in the knit along all Mara Catherine Briner sock patterns are allowed. I started the Moto socks by Mara Catherine Briner, which has this fun like a Moto jacket detail that worked in gauges, like reverse stockinette and stockinette, like switching it up, and it has like a folded over hem, so it's really like warm up here, which I like. And these are this is the same yarn, another skein I got in this kind of sale. And I'm using 3.5mm needles here, so it's a bit more like loose and like almost too loose to be like normal socks, but because it has this double folded over brim, I don't really mind. So yes, it's also really fun. Those were the 2 I've started recently and I'm actually like working on. And now that Amy Florence has this roller derby knit along, I'm like, oh, I have a lot of Roll City rollers in progress, and I have a lot of yarn that like is a half skein or leftovers that I could use for Roll City rollers. So I pulled out like my started ones, and I have more than I thought. So I, for example, have this one, which is just a half object, which is from like a skein I dyed pretty long ago. So this is all speckles, but I started speckling and I wanted to do a practice strand, so I did all the speckles. So this doesn't really look like speckled yarn anymore, it just looks like a really colorful one. But I really like it, it's a really fun one. It's fingering weight sock yarn. This one was knit with 2.5mm needles, so it's a lot less dense than like the DK Sport Weight skein. And I have this half object, and I have like the remaining yarns, which I just need to knit up for the second one, which I'm gonna do until this knit along ends. I think on holiday I will just take like the started projects I have, like the Marettimo and the Pavement sweater, and the lace shawl, to like work on those, and a lot of sock yarn for Rosery rollers, because I hope to have a lot of time there. And so another one that I have started, need to detangle it, is from like Schoppel Yarn's Zauberball, which is like a magic ball where you don't know what's inside. And it knits up really funny every time. Like this one does almost like stripes. So I started like this, and I even pulled out the needles because I had no sock motor at some point. So I'm finishing this one. I love that she allows whips into her knit along. So yeah, this one is a whip, and I need to do this one to the end, and then the second one. Gonna happen soon. Then I have this leftovers from a full pair of socks that I also knit from one of those Zauberballs, and I will like stripe this one with the other one, the leftovers after knitting the second sock and all. So this will be a pair of Rosery rollers. These leftovers, which are from my Vertices Unite that I showed, I hope this is enough for a pair of either Rosery rollers or maybe Saturday matinee socks, which I've also knit before and I really love, but I don't know if the yarn is maybe too crazy. But I would like to make Saturday matinee socks out of this. I will have to weigh it to see how much it is, or if I have to mix it with some purple or something. I have this like pink purple commercial sock yarn left over, and I think this will be enough too. I also need to weigh it. Gonna be like Rosery rollers or so. She also has another like roller pattern. Roller is a word I can't really say. Which has like arrows almost on it. I don't know what it's called. I will say it next week when I podcast again. What it's called, and I want to buy the pattern. I'm just not sure whether I want to afford it right now, because I'm moving fully in with my boyfriend. I've already moved in a few months ago actually, but now we're getting actual furniture, like new furniture, where my clothes also fit into the cupboard, and we're getting a second and a third room over time. And I can bring my new e-piano that I'm getting for like graduation. Even though I'm not graduating yet, we're gonna buy it tomorrow, so that I can like practice every day as much as I want on the piano, and where it's not as stuffed, because here is a chair and here's a like, I'm forgetting the words, not a cupboard, I'm not usually so stupid, but yeah, this one, Regal in German, I don't know what it is in English. I know, but I can't remember it right now because I'm delirious. And I'm sitting on the floor because there's no space in this room. There's my boyfriend's like working desk behind me, which is why there's like computer screens and like a lot of stuff standing around, which has no place here. So we really need to like get more space. But I'm spending like some like really long saved up money on things like this chair, because I needed a chair to sit in. There was no second chair in this room, and a new cupboard and different kinds of furniture. And I'm like, I don't know, even if it's just a $5 pattern, I don't want to like spend even more than I'm already spending. So yeah, that's kind of something I'm thinking about. But I do think like with Easter money and the holidays, I will indulge in that at some point. I don't know, maybe in the next couple of weeks. But I also have this yarn, which will I think be Rosery rollers or one of those other patterns, which is left over from another shawl. And this is hand dyed by me, like as the last, like this skein also is hand dyed by me. And I dyed a sweater quantity of this, but then I used like one skein for a shawl and one skein for a hat, and now I have like different leftovers of different sizes. I think I gave one to my mom, so it's not going to be a sweater, there's not enough. but I do have this to make Rose City rollers out of, or similar. Then I have this one, which is, I don't know what I used it for. I think some of it went to in my Excuse Me, which is a whip, like a long languishing whip, one I did last summer or so. But then my knitting mojo kept going down and down, and I didn't knit on it anymore. I have to start it up again. But I did put something, like some of this, into this project. And Stephen West liked my Instagram post about the Vertices Unite. I felt like a celebrity there. Yeah, and I also have this yarn, which was a Christmas present. Like, I picked it and said to my father, I want this yarn for Christmas. And he bought 3 skeins of it for me, and I knit a crop top. It's a perfect crop, SPCT or so. I don't know what that's. I know that CT is a crop top portion out of this, and I have more than 100 grams left over, I think. So I have 2 other balls of leftovers because I alternated skeins, but this is the biggest one, and I think this alone will be either Rose City rollers or, if I'm crazy, like one of those other patterns. And then I could knit another pair in another pattern from like my other leftovers. So yeah, that's going to happen. It already has needles in it. And also I have, this is not a Mara Catherine Briner pattern, so I can't count it towards a cal, but it's really similar. It's also shorty socks, and they have this lace pattern, like, no, not lace, but like faux cable. And they're really nice. I knit this one during a political conference where I was as a like delegated person from my party. And I knit during conferences because I'm that person. But I don't know what the pattern is called right now because it was knit quite a while ago, but I just need to do a second one. This is just like cheap commercial sock yarn, but I thought because the pattern was so nice I wouldn't mind. And I did the same heel as for the Rose City rollers because it's a really similar pattern. I don't know if it was in the pattern to do this heel, but it's also a free pattern. I like using free patterns sometimes when it's something like socks where I don't want to spend money on a sock pattern, not because I don't want to support the designers, but again because being on a budget. But yeah, this is really nice, and I just need to do the second one, and I think with this roller derby thing I can do that. It's not a roller, but it's similar, so maybe it will also motivate me. And yeah, that's all my works in progress and finished objects and all the knitting I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to move into my, like, this was a skein section of Skeins and Scholars. And now we're going into like the Scholars section. And in this kind of section, it's a short one. But I want to talk about things that interest me, things I've learned about, things I like study for school and university and stuff. Or like music things I'm learning. So it's kind of like my learning part of this, so that's why it's called Scholars. And this week I wanted to talk about like the biology exam that I had 2 weeks ago. Friday 2 weeks ago, which I've studied so much for. Like, I didn't ever really study for biology because it's something that just I read it and I know it and it stays forever. So I didn't need to learn, which I noticed when I wrote the exam. I could have written it like in the night without learning anything, without getting sleep. I still would have gotten like everything written down and right, I think, because it was just, to me, really easy. I know it's not easy to most people, but I am lucky to have an IQ of, depending on the test, like I had a Mensa official test, which was 130, but then I had one for the boarding school I visited for a year, and they said it was higher, but they wouldn't tell me the exact number because it was disclosed information. So I have an exceptionally high IQ, which helps me with a lot of things in school. I have a lot of free time despite having exams and despite like being in my last 2 years of school for the last 2 years. And everyone else is kind of studying for these exams, and they're 6 hours long. And I'm just chilling. But for biology, like, everyone was going crazy about it. And I thought, like, oh no, I need to learn. And I studied so much, and I was sitting like in the test and I almost like cried because I I beat myself up so much for the test, and then I could have written it without. So that's something I'm remembering for the next exams, which are like math, then English, then music, and lastly history. And all of these subjects I'm really good at, which is why I picked them for my exams. I'm lucky to not really have a subject that I'm bad at. Like, I'm not great at sports, but I'm still getting like 2s and 3s, which is good, or like makes you feel in peace is kind of the translation of befriedigen, which is the like word version of the grade 3. So I'm okay with that too, because I picked like dancing and I picked fitness, which I'm good at. And the first 2 years I had volleyball and badminton. I'm not good at things involving like balls and sticks and stuff, so not a good one. I didn't have that great grades there, but I don't have to like actually count them towards my final score, because sports isn't like mandatory to include. So I'm really glad about that. But like all the not sports subjects I was always good at, which I'm really lucky about, I know. But I just need to remember, like for the next weeks, not to beat myself up. I can have free time, I can knit. I don't need to study constantly. It just doesn't make me feel well, and it's not necessary. So yeah, next week I will study a bit for math, because I'm not used to this kind of calculator that we're using, because I switched schools a lot, switched calculators, and this one is just one that doesn't come natural to me, so I do have to look at that. But otherwise I will just practice a bit, but not beat myself up. Then I learn what a stoma is, because I'm really interested in medicine, and like a YouTuber that I never watched popped up in my recommended feed on YouTube, and she has a stoma and explained something about it. And then I read like different studies that were conducted and stuff, and explanations. Now I know a lot about like stomas and ileostomies and the diseases that can lead up to that, and maybe possible in the future reconstruction surgery. So yeah, that's something I learned about this week. I also practiced the guitar and the piano a lot, because I didn't practice the guitar for quite a while. I'm self-taught on the guitar. I only like play chords and simple progressions with tabs. But I practiced a lot for like the last 2 years or so, and then when I had my music like entrance exams for uni, I only played the violin, the piano, and was singing there. So I really focused all my efforts on that and practiced really much. So like the guitar fell by the wayside, and now that that's done, I'm picking up the guitar again. And the piano I didn't play for only a few weeks, but because after the exam, which I had at the end of February, I was feeling really burned out in terms of music. I practiced a lot and a lot and a lot and more. And I hated the piano for a few weeks. Now I love it again, because I love playing the piano. But I know why I wouldn't study music to become like a member of an orchestra, because I noticed that it like gets too much in terms of the stress at some point with all the practice. So I don't want to do that for a living. Then I also that's something I taught and didn't learn. But my cat, Amadeus, he's a young male Berman cat, and he's really chill. He is a child of our cat, which I'm not a big fan of breeding cats, because I think there's a lot of cats in shelters. But my mother is really into puppies and kittens and having baby animals, and I think that's kind of understandable too. And she wanted to get either cats or dogs for breeding, not excessively breeding, just having kittens or puppies like 1 or 2 or 3 times. And so our one cat got pregnant as we wanted to, and she had one kitten who has his tail isn't straight. It's a little bit like to the right side, which looks really funny because he always has it on the right. And so he wasn't like the perfect kitten, and I fell in love with him for being like not perfect, so we kept him and didn't give him away. And it's my cat now, and he's really chill, because I have a little brother, and he was 2 years old when Amadeus was born. My cat is Amadeus after Amadeus Mozart, because it was the first composer that I sang songs from in singing lessons. opera singing lessons. I sang before in choirs and stuff, but like the first professional opera arias that I learned. So yeah, he is Amadeus. He's really cute, and he's super chill because my little brother always drags him around, and like he knew it from the start, so he doesn't mind. He's like, yeah, I'm fine being carried by this little now 3-year-old child who has me like this in his arms, and like the wrong way around sometimes too. So I'm always feeling sorry for him, but he's accepting it. So today I decided to try putting like a leash and a harness on him, and I know a lot of cats don't like it, but my cat was just like, fine, I'll accept this. And I put it on him, I put the leash on, took him to the garden, which he never really saw because he's an indoor cat. He was like, all these things, so interesting. I have photos of him like discovering things on my Instagram too. And that was really fun. I did it 2 times today, and he loves it. He loves being outside and like being able to roam around in the sun, even though he has to have a harness on. And he doesn't try to get it off. He just tries to like catch his leash because to him it's like a toy. Yeah, that was a really fun thing to do today. And like the last thing in terms of scholars is something I wouldn't say I've learned about completely or something, but I want to learn more about, and I'm trying to learn more about, and it's an active process, and that's involving the discussion in the knitting community in the last couple of months about racism, because I sadly didn't really take an active part in this conversation up to now, mostly due to the fact that I wasn't knitting when this came out. You know, I told you I stopped knitting for a few months in the winter and was really stressed also with entrance exams for university, and I stopped knitting, and I stopped watching podcasts, and I unfollowed people on Instagram, which was kind of mean, but now I follow them again, so it's fine. And I just like kind of detached myself from the knitting world. I didn't open Ravelry for months, and it just passed me by. And then I came back, I started knitting again, and like my mother kind of motivated me to start knitting again because she always knits. And now like I come back to Instagram and Ravelry and all these knitting things, and I notice this discussion, and I start to think about like racism in the knitting community and the way I kind of saw that and saw race and like inequality. And I noticed how little I was looking out for that before, because I used to only follow like white female podcasters and or like one man, but just like white females, because I didn't broaden my scope, and this was like the popular knitting podcasts. I got into like knitting podcasts via like Bull and Vine and Amy from Stranded and the Yarn Hodder podcasts, which are and the Crafty Chat by Hannah, and like the big podcasts, and I didn't look out for anything more diverse than that. And I don't know, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about how misrepresented, like in the worldwide knitting community, people of color, like BIPOC people, actually are. So that kind of, when I noticed that, when I like read everything, like read a lot of the comments and the statements by different people, and saw how like yarn companies and people didn't respond, I was sad. And I was mostly sad about like how I wasn't there when that happened, because like politically I am with the Green Party in Germany, who are really all for like diversity and for equality, and like also mostly for like green politics, like for working against climate change and working against nuclear energy. But like their second big focus is feminism and equality and being anti-racist, and all the big demonstrations they do is mostly against AfD, which is a really conservative and nationalistic, almost many people there really seem racist party, when we're working actively against it. And that's a passion of mine. And I tried during like the refugee crisis in Germany to really like take part in it, although I was abroad in Estonia for a year when that really hit. But when I came back, I taught refugee German for 2 months without getting paid anything, and I spent like 4 hours every day driving there by train, like taking the bike a half an hour, then the train for half an hour, then walking a kilometer, and then teaching him and going back, and that 5 times a week for 2 months, because I am passionate about that. And I was passionate about like giving him a chance to like be educated, and for him it was like he wanted to be a hairdresser and he wanted to be taught that, but he had to know German to pass like the exams there and like be taught everything. And I thought like he has to have this opportunity. He deserves this chance coming from like a war-torn country. So I taught him, and now that we have this discussion in the knitting community, I feel like I missed it, and it's too late to say something, which I know it isn't, which is why I'm telling you this now. But I don't know how to like really get into the discussion now, as I've missed so much. And I feel really sorry for not speaking out while I was away, because I didn't notice anything. And that kind of, it makes me angry, and it's the reason why I'm trying to find out more and more about different companies and different people and the ways they interact, and like discovering how racism is still prevalent in this community and in other communities, because it's a worldwide issue. It's like in all the different fields. Same as feminism. And I just wanted you to know I am actually working, not actually actively working on educating myself. But if you have anything, like maybe I'm not doing what I think I'm doing by like using the yarns I'm using, or like knitting the projects I'm using, and you have like, or you have an idea how I could do this better, like to be a better like a better person, just in terms of like treating everyone equally, then I don't mind being educated about this. Like if I do something wrong, please tell me. I hate hurting people or being in a way I don't want to be by accident. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I will keep talking about it, I think, whenever I find out something. Like not every little thing. Like I recently found out that Madeline Tosh, the big yarn company, which I've never used because I can't afford it, that they like created this horrendous, like, I don't know what it's called, equality, or I don't know, inclusivity. Yeah, that's what it's called. Like a white yarn with some brown and beige, I think. And now that's inclusivity. No, it's not. And they didn't really have a statement about it. And I don't think that's a good way to go. I learned about this, but I'm not educated enough to really like call them out myself. And I'm not involved with them in any way. So I'm not going to talk every time I find something like this out, because I want to not make this a negative place where I'm just like, oh, this person is awful, this company is awful. But yeah, I will talk about it whenever I like change the way I feel about it. Not change the way I feel, change the way I act about it, or find out something new. I will talk about it. So this will also remain in the scholar section, because I think it's a really, really important thing to discuss and change in our community. And yeah, now that I've talked for a really long time, it's 1 hour and 8 minutes. Great. For a first podcast. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to also tell you that I will create a group on Ravelry for this podcast, which will also be called of Skeins and Scholars. I will create that probably later this evening. I don't know when this podcast will go live, probably on Saturday. But yes, there will be a Ravelry group for this, and I really hope that there will be people in there that maybe like this podcast. I did have like a really small knitting podcast before. I only did 3 episodes. It was called the Fancy Knitting Podcast. So no, there's 14 subscribers right now to this channel. One of which is my mother, because she watches this podcast, although she's not fluent in English, which I love her for. But yeah, there's 13 other people who will probably wonder, why is this person doing another podcast? But that's just because I started that podcast while I had a low knitting mojo, like it was dwindling and fading away. And the name really didn't doesn't feel like me anymore. It didn't feel really like me then, but I didn't have another better idea. So I thought about it for a long time, like starting back up with the podcast or like starting a new one. And now I've decided I have the time, with school being over pretty much, and I have like the mental state for it, with the knitting mojo and also with like wanting to do this. So I don't think I will like stop after 3 episodes again. But yeah, that's the reason. Like, I know how hard it is to gain like people watching the podcast, but I still love just talking about my knitting, and there's not a lot of local people I can talk to, like except for my mother and my grandma, who are great, but they knit very different things from me because I'm much younger, and also like my color opinions are different than them. So I'm glad that like through podcasts I have found people who I want to watch, and like they inspire me. Like Amy Florence inspired me to make loads of rosette rollers and similar socks, and that happens to me quite often. So that's the main reason I wanted to do a knitting podcast, because I thought maybe I could add some of my opinions to this. And I also think that with like the academic background I have, like I know I'm only a high school student right now, but I went to a boarding school for people with a very high IQ, and I studied a few semesters of different topics, which are all over the place and have nothing to do with what I want to work later, so they don't really benefit me. But I feel like the scholars portion of my podcast is something new, and I know there's a few knitters with like who are making their PhD right now, like the Crimson Stitchery podcast, Anushka or Ali from Skeins. They are both doing a PhD. But I don't know, they don't actively talk about a lot of things they discover and learn about, which is completely fine. I'm there for the knitting too. But I thought by adding that in, maybe I could do something a little different. So that's the background behind this. And yeah, 1 hour and 12 minutes after starting to talk, my throat hurts a bit, and I feel like I completely like talked you to death. So if you're still watching, thank you so much. I will update again like probably next week if I get time to while I'm on holiday. I know I have Wi-Fi, so that's possible. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to see you again soon. And have a nice day. Bye.